uh, check. Voice call.
Wow. You
Yeah.
ruined the Dead Space I was
Stacey
gonna do. How dare
Dennings.
you?
Oh, well, I
Stacey
gotta do my vocal.
No, we can't
I gotta
do Game
do my
Grumps.
vocal warm-ups.
We can't do.
Oh, why don't we just trash talk someone else? Caleb
No.
Matthew.
Caleb
Matthew. Caleb sucks. Caleb's a bad editor.
Oh, poor Caleb.
Bad editor. It's my vocal warm-up. Don't worry about it, Caleb.
This is the only way I can communicate with him. God.
Alright, well, we are back. And like I said, we never left. Can I do a brief rehash of how we got here?
Okay.
Because, it's about a week before we're supposed to record the podcast for today.
Mm-hmm.
But we were going to sit down to record some Quadrilateral Cowboy today. And as we were getting settled in, we just started gushing about how much we love the new Spider-Man movies.
Yep.
And since the topic for the podcast was scheduled to be, we're talking about superheroes, I said, why don't we put a pause on Quadrilateral Cowboy and just talk about superheroes and get the podcast done?
Mm-hmm.
So we started recording, and apparently Discord was messed up because it wasn't recording my vocals, it was just recording Stick.
It was OBS was like, yeah, I'm just going to
OBS.
reset everything to default outputs.
So y'all would have had 4 minutes of Stick
just talking to myself, yeah.
And no Wolfie input. Which, I mean, for better or for worse,
it probably was okay. It was probably okay.
It probably would have been better if you just didn't have me here at all.
Nah.
Just do a podcast by yourself.
Oh my god.
But unfortunately, we restarted, and so I'm here now.
Yeah.
So, welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
To the podcast. We're going to talk about superheroes and, okay.
So, do you want me to just do a quick recap of what I said before? Just that way we don't have to start all over.
We don't have to. I was going to say, we can just freaking do this.
Keep going. Why not?
Organically.
Yeah.
I don't know. We were talking about Spider-Man a bunch.
Spider-Mans.
Again, I feel like 90% of this podcast is going to be Spider-Man because...
Well, Spider-Man is like one of the most well-known globally known heroes, yeah.
Yeah, and he's been owned by several different companies.
Mainly Sony.
Yes.
Because Marvel, way back in the day, sold the rights to a lot of their different superheroes to different companies.
Marvel was going under, and so they had to,
They had to make some money. Yeah.
To get some money.
So what was it? So Spider-Man went to Sony. X-Men also went to Sony.
Oh, that's right. Shoot.
Which is why we hadn't had any X-Men in the MCU yet until now.
So let's go through real quick. Let's go through the Spider-Man stuff because I feel like we're going to talk about that for a bit, and then we'll get into the X-Men and crap. But
yeah. So
I'm going to continue.
Yeah,
I was going to say, before I got cut off, I was talking about my introduction to Spider-Man, and it was through the Sam Raimi trilogy.
Yes.
Because, young Wolfie pirated a bunch of movies, and the Sam Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man was one of them. And I don't remember a whole lot from them. I don't I don't remember a bunch from them because I was very young. But then when I rewatched them when I was older, I was like, wow, this is very meme-worthy.
Correct.
If you watched just the memes from those three movies, you would have the entire...
You would have context of most of the movie, yeah.
You would have the entire everything,
I mean, Mark McGuire is such a...
Tobey Maguire?
Mark McGuire. Yeah, the baseball player. I am so tired. Give me a break.
How are you tired? It's
No,
whatever.
I haven't... Okay,
He hasn't had his morning coffee.
Yeah, it's still settling. Yeah, Mark McGuire, the famous baseball player, played as Spider-Man's... God damn.
Tobey
Maguire played Spider-Man's.
Yes, and I think he did a great job.
He did well for the time.
For the content that he was given, it was really good.
Correct. Your superhero movies had a lot lower budgets than they do now, so...
And they were a little bit more
they were more slice of life, too.
Nobody really took superhero movies that seriously back then, back in the early 2000s, I think. I think the only superhero movie that was, was taken seriously was the Batman trilogy.
Batman trilogy and X-Men was taken somewhat seriously.
That was because it dealt with real people issues, and it dealt with some actually terrifying villains. The original Batman trilogy.
Well, that and Batman was like a lot darker.
Yeah, you could get away with being like super serious,
super edgy and serious. Yeah,
it's Batman, and
But Spider-Man was more of like this jokey one-liner kind of superhero.
Yeah. He was the progenitor for all the Marvel quippy superhero stereotype.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from him, basically, Deadpool exists. More or less. I mean, Deadpool technically existed in the comic books before.
So, they never made a Deadpool movie until later. So Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's original trilogy, and like, people can meme on it all they want. People can meme on Toby, and people can meme on all the memes that came out of that. I think the main takeaway from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man is that you can have a movie that is filled with jokes and memes and funny moments, but also have some like actual emotional beats that hit really hard in a movie about a dude who wears latex and swings around on webs.
It's spandex, not latex, sir.
Sorry, you're right. Spandex.
Spandex. It's not a. It's not.
That was just a
latex is a completely different genre.
Material. Oh right. Shoot, I didn't think about that.
Latex would be an entirely different movie that wouldn't be kid friendly.
Spider-Man trilogy was weirdly. I don't know. It was just. I don't know. It was weirdly like not kid friendly at some points.
Oh man.
But point being, after that there was.
I mean, it did also help that Emma Stone was in the movies.
There was the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I would call it a trilogy, but it wasn't a trilogy. It was just the two movies, if I remember correctly. The Amazing Spider-Man with Electrode and who was the other guy?
They also had Kurt Connors.
I watched it once, and it was the weakest in the series. And I don't think it was because of specifically just the lead actor, because I think Andrew Garfield is amazing.
He's a good actor,
that wasn't fun. But like the material was a little, it was like a higher budget, but like just a scuffed version of the Sam Raimi trilogy.
Well, you have to think too that at that time the MCU was just starting to pick up steam, and people were still not on board with the whole superhero ideas.
Yeah.
I think it was the fact that it was kind of its own standalone with no other supporting stuff, and it was basically just rehashing Raimi trilogy with new villains.
They tried to make it a little bit more serious, a little bit more edgy.
Yeah.
With Spider-Man, and I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, edgy Spider-Man can work, but like, just not like that, man.
Yeah.
The execution of those couple of movies was a little bit strange. Definitely the weakest in the series. Still really good, but just the weakest in the series for me, at least.
Yeah.
And then that evolved into fast forward to the MCU.
Yes.
Which is in full swing. Captain America: Civil War is coming out, which was like Avengers 2.
Right.
This juggernaut of a series that has so many recognizable actors and faces and names, and they decided, why don't we add Spider-Man to this mess?
Well, that was after a lot of negotiation with Sony, because they didn't want to release that IP.
Yeah, I didn't even know that Spider-Man was going to show up in the MCU until I watched the movie.
Right. Well, actually, they spoiled that in the trailers, which was unfortunate.
I didn't freaking watch the trailers.
Yeah. Trailers have gotten so spoilery, like, in the past few years. It's ridiculous. Like, it used to be bad for those, like, B-rated movies where it's like, there's a kid that knows how to do mathematics, and one day he discovers something insane. And then it, like, goes through the whole plot of the movie.
It's calculus.
Yeah. He knows calculus. He gets asked by the president to develop a bridge that will carry a nuclear weapon.
My favorite trailers are really like the teasers, especially for like indie animated series like freaking murder drones or something.
Sure.
Where they don't have a whole lot of animation done, so they only show you what they have, and what they have is excellent and gets you hooked.
Yeah.
Without spoiling like anything, because they don't have any of that stuff animated yet.
My favorite trailers are when the trailers have nothing to do with the movie, but introduce you to the main characters. I think Deadpool did that.
Oh, I was gonna say The Incredibles did that too.
The Incredibles did that. I think Deadpool did that as well. If I remember right, it was like a little side story,
You don't need to introduce Deadpool.
No, but this was back when Deadpool like wasn't in the mainstream. Nobody knew who he was. Because if you think about it, comic books are not a mainstream topic. Like
that's correct.
It's not mainstream.
But we gotta circle back to Spoodermans real quick because we were talking about Spoodermans. Spoodermans. No, because Tom Holland became Spider-Man #3, and
he did way better.
I mean, say what you will about the MCU in general, but Tom Holland was great.
Yes.
Or I shouldn't say was great, because I assume he's still making movies, so he's great.
He's got, I think, two or three more down the pipe in the MCU. So
they introduced him in Civil War, and he was really good in Civil War. And then he got his own movie-ish, which was named something that I don't remember. It was the one where he was doing like Homecoming.
Yeah, Homecoming. There you go.
Homecoming, where he fought the Vulture, and they had Ned, who's my favorite character in the MCU. And then we had I love Ned.
Ned is awesome. Yeah.
And then we had they had Spider-Man Far From Home, where they had Spider-Man with Mysterio, and a bunch of like Iron Man stuff in between.
Because they took a break on Spider-Man for a little while, but he was in a lot of the Avengers movies.
That's true. He also in like Infinity War and Endgame.
Less in Endgame, but mainly in Infinity War. Because he was dusted for the entirety. Sorry, spoilers for the upcoming Endgame.
Spoilers for Infinity War.
Yeah.
But right after Dr. Robotnik dusts tails, Spider-Man also is like Tony Stark, or well, I guess he didn't say Tony Stark, but he's like Mr.
Robert
Stark.
Downey Jr. Help me.
he just calls him by his actual name. Robert, please.
Robert.
No, but he's like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. And then they applied like one of those Windows Movie Maker filters that makes him disappear.
Yeah. They gave him the wipe.
The screen wipe.
Screen wipe.
So he was gone for a little bit, and then he shows up at the very end in Endgame, which is like the big emotional, like, Tom's back.
Endgame was one of the highest grossing MCU movies to date. Yeah. There's been nothing that comes close to it.
I was gonna say, like, the original Avengers was like that, and then they did Infinity War, and
Infinity War blew that out of the water.
Crazy hype for Infinity War. And then it ended on like an Empire Strikes Back kind of thing, where like the bad
to
guys
be continued,
and everyone's like, you know what? And the new Spider-Man trilogy is doing the exact same thing.
Kind of.
Where the first movie is like it's self-contained. Man, everybody's just ripping off Star Wars. The first movie is like it's self-contained little adventure, where if you just watch the first movie, you're like,
you're cool.
Yay, that was good. That was adorable and cute and had interesting character development. And then you watch the second movie where the story continues and everything goes to shit. Like everything bad happens.
He gives up the AI to Brandon, whatever his first name is. Beck. So he gives up the AI, and then Beck, like, basically, he gets defeated, but then he reveals Peter Parker's secret identity,
Yeah, exposed on Twitter.
And then he got canceled.
And then the third movie, which, to my knowledge, I haven't seen it.
I'll try to be a little less spoilery of that one, but essentially he wants to try and reverse Mysterio's exposure of him, so that way his family and friends are safe.
And he goes and talks to Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange is all strange about it. And he's like, whoa.
Yeah, and he's got the third eye.
That's strange.
Oh, no, wait, he doesn't have the third eye yet. That was the multiverse. Yeah. Timelines of the MCU movies are a little bit muddled now.
We could do a whole podcast about that.
Oh my god.
About the continuation. So, Okay. Let's also talk about the animated Spider-Verse trilogy, because that was what we're actually talking about that led us to this conversation.
I just heard you open something.
Yep, that was my monster. Hold on,
Wow.
I'm taking a swig from it. Yep, people, I'll take a swig of this monster.
Yeah, so the animated Spider-Man movies, we're talking about the Miles Morales movies, specifically. So you've got Across the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, Beyond the Spider-Verse is coming up, and then Across the Spider-Verse is the second one there. I completely fucked those up on the order, but that's okay.
Can you try that again? We got...
Into the Spider-Verse.
There you go.
Across the Spider-Verse, and then Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Okay, good.
Good lord. So it kind of went on the same sort of story beats, though, of the other two series, because you've got... that we just talked about. First movie is its own self-contained adventure. The second one, the bad guys kind of win.
Yeah, and then the third movie...
and then the third one, we don't know yet, but...
hopefully... they just kill Miles.
They just kill Miles.
I know the story's done. He's dead. Spot wins.
That would be unfortunate.
Freaking Gwen goes to jail. I don't know why she would go to jail, but she does go to jail.
Okay, can we talk about Spot for a second? Because oh my god, they made him such a badass.
Give him some backstory for the people who don't know.
So Spot, who in the original movie, the first one, Across the Spider-Verse, I always get them confused.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Across the
Can you
Beyond
just say
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse 1?
Spider-Verse 1. Okay.
There you go.
So Spider-Verse 1, he gets hit in the head with a bagel while they're escaping Acme Labs. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Acme Labs.
Time out real quick, but have you ever watched Penguins of Madagascar?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're Skipper, and I'm
Skipper.
And I'm Kowalski, getting you back on track when you say the wrong thing.
Listen. I know plots. There are small details that I fuck up the names on because I have seen so many movies across so many genres.
That's why I'm here. All right, continue with the Spot backstory.
Okay, so Spot was from Alchemax. He gets caught up in the reactor explosion, which turns him into basically a dimensional traveler. He can create and open up holes in between realities, or even in between his own reality.
But it's limited use.
It's limited use, so he has to basically power himself up by causing another major reactor meltdown, and supercharging himself. So he crosses between a few different dimensions until he finds an Alchemax that has another reactor and is able to supercharge himself into the Spot that has one of the best animations I have ever seen of an abstract character.
His animation style.
Oh my god, whoever animated that, I fucking love you.
Please go ice your wrist, because I imagine that took a lot of drawing.
Oh my god. So, abstract characters are really tough. You've got Dr. Manhattan, who is just a guy in a blue suit from the X-Men series. You've got characters like the Blob and things like that. Okay, I know Clayface has never been done in a 3D animation, but I imagine Clayface from DC, he's one of the Batman villains. Clayface would probably do no justice. He's just a pile of clay.
Okay.
But Spot, one of my favorite villain designs. Holy shit.
So early in the movie, it's funny because
he starts out as this goofball.
So someone pointed this out to me. Spot goes through his own hero's journey during the movie of Spider-Verse 2, where he starts out in his, and I wouldn't say comfortable because he's very, it's all very new development for him, but it's familiar territory. He starts off in his own dimension where he's robbing someone of an ATM.
Convenience store.
So, side note, and can I point out this really awesome attention to detail that just makes me love these movies even more? You know how Spot says ATM machine, and Miles points out, why did you say ATM machine when the M in machine?
It stands for machine.
Get this. While Spot was talking with the owner of that convenience store, he said, I forgot my PIN number.
Yep.
But the N in number stands, or the
personal identification number.
Yeah, the N in PIN stands for number. So not only did he say PIN number, but he also says ATM machine, which just means that he says that kind of thing for, like.
What was the other joke in that movie that they did the similar thing?
The chai tea.
Oh yeah, chai tea. Chai means tea.
Chai means tea. Yeah. But so Spot goes through this little hero's journey of his own, where he's stealing an ATM, and then he encounters Spider-Man for the first time and gets beat. They never really showed how he got out of that situation, but he did. And then he fights Spider-Man and the Lieutenant Morales, the police lieutenant, kicks himself into himself and just disappears into this weird, like, third dimension.
Where there's no echo.
Yeah, and then he realizes, wait a minute, I'm actually way more powerful than I thought that I was.
Yeah.
So he has to go get some more spots because he has unlimited use. He goes and gets more spots.
Would you quit talking about your holes already? You're making a lot of people uncomfortable.
He goes and collects more spots, which is what Gwen is supposed to stop, but she, fucks up. So he goes and collects. He does like a miniature collider reaction to give himself more holes so that he can travel to different dimensions. And if you notice the character design, original Spot has like a complete white body with some black spots on him, and then upgraded Spot has like this giant black blob across his upper body.
Yeah.
Well, he always had a blob on his face, but he his whole upper body is black because he's powered up.
Yep.
And then when he goes to the Alchemax in Mumbattan and fully supercharges himself, the color palette just flips, where he becomes a black being with this weird white swirly thing for a face.
Yes.
It's such a cool
It's such a cool design for a villain. And I appreciate the fact that in Across the Spider-Verse they have one main villain. I think that was the problem with not only the Garfield series, but also the Raimi trilogy, where they had all these different villains just crossing paths all the time.
That's true. They also, the Spider-Verse 1 had a bunch of different villains, but
it did, but that made more sense.
They were all part of Kingpin's gang.
Yeah, exactly. You had the central villain Kingpin, but you had the different villains underneath of him.
Tombstone, Scorpion,
and even still, Tombstone and Scorpion, they showed up like twice.
Yeah.
And then Doc Ock was the only catalyst for Alchemax, and that was pretty much it.
Aunt May clocked Tombstone in the face with a bat. That made me
Take
so
it
happy.
Outside!
Angry New York woman? Like, hell yeah.
Aunt May is a badass.
Aunt May is a badass. Alright, let's gush about your favorite character from the Spider-Verse movies.
Okay. Yeah, because we're talking about animation. So, obviously in the Spider-Verse movies, they do every single character's animation style completely different. Like, Gwen Stacy is all about pastel colors and making sure that emotion matches the coloring. You've got Mumbattan Spider-Man.
Oh my lord.
Crud.
Mumbattan is just sensory overload.
It is, but it's so cool. It's so cool.
Whole place just like
it's such Bollywood, but it's amazing.
That whole place gives me anxiety because of how claustrophobic. I don't
and then
have
you've got
claustrophobia.
Hobie, who was designed like a 90s pop.
And he looks like a newspaper.
Yeah, he's made out of newspaper most of the time. Or just like really loosely cut together pieces of
with a
magazines
piece of
and
clip
things.
art for his guitar.
Yeah.
And his pick is also just a separate, like, it looks like if you were scrapbooking.
Yeah.
And you tried to make a character.
He's basically a ransom note.
He's a ransom note.
And then you've got obviously Peter Porker, who is designed like the old style cartoons with the pipe cleaner style.
Well, I was gonna say like the noodly arms and everything.
Yeah, noodle arms.
He's got hammer space. He's got a giant hammer that Miles never used in the second movie, and I feel bad about it.
I know. I wonder if they'll bring it up in the third, because Peter Porker is back.
Miles should have bonged Miguel in the face with that, with that mallet.
Miguel O'Hara, who was a lot sharper angles and a lot more...
This detail that I didn't notice until I rewatched it, but Miguel O'Hara's his like outline. So when you're drawing something, you draw the line art, right?
Yep.
And sometimes the lines will intersect and like overlay a little bit, so where you have this little X on like the corner. If you look at his shoulders, they're really like you can see where the outlines.
Cut.
Yeah, they're sharply cut. It's a little bit scuffed.
Yeah.
The angrier he gets, the more sharp those edges become.
Yep.
Which is just a really neat little detail where they're like, hey, what
there
is
are
usually
no soft angles. There are no soft angles on any part of him.
He's a very harsh.
He's an angular character, whereas Miles has more softer angles. He's a little bit more traditional comic book styled.
He's got bleeding from his armpits, as everyone points out. Everyone makes fun of his
They've got all different styles of...
I kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cool designed costume, and it fits his style. Miles goes for his own style.
I was going to say, where else would you put red lines on the Spider-Man suit?
Exactly.
What are you going to do, like across the horizontal? No, that would look weird.
Now, I'm making predictions for the next movie on this, but I like the fact that Miles doesn't follow the traditional Spider-Man story. He doesn't have his uncle die to a shooter like the other two.
But, his Uncle Aaron literally got shot by by Kingpin.
Well, it wasn't by like a random robber, right? And his uncle was a villain.
Correct.
Which
Uncle
mirrors his sort of upbringing.
Uncle Aaron was the coolest character from Spider-Verse.
Correct. Because originally you have no clue. However, if you listen to the music the first time they meet, you can hear the slight Prowler undertones.
Prowler sting?
Yeah. As they're talking, you can hear it underneath the music barely. And
they really went all out on that movie, didn't they?
Oh yeah. And then flip side. So if you also notice, Miles Morales' Spider-Man stinger is the inverse of Prowler's stinger.
So kind of like reflecting his upbringing, but also like flipping it around to where he's a good guy.
Correct, because if he wasn't bit by that spider, he would have become the next Prowler.
Right,
so it's his inner turmoil of like, oh my god, it's such a well-crafted movie.
So I think he wants to do the right thing. And it's not that the spider biting him, giving him powers, made him morally good.
Correct.
It's that
it gave him a catalyst.
Well, because we see the reflection of what Miles would have been. Spoiler alert for Spider-Verse 2. At the end of Spider-Verse 2, we see Miles Morales as the Prowler because his dad died.
From Earth 42. Yep.
So his dad is Miles' moral center, right? Where if his dad was taken out of the picture, Miles would be a villain.
Yep.
Right? And that's why in Spider-Verse 2, Miles is very protective of his dad. Like, even when they're first fighting the Spot, but also, like, later when the Spot is going to try to kill his dad. That's, like, Miles' moral center, and it's a big deal for him when Miguel asks him to let his dad die, because, like, his dad is the...
Yeah,
and obviously,
he's the antithesis for his character arc.
His heroic, yeah. And of course, his mom has a bunch to do with that, too, I'm sure, but, like... Again,
it's not as influential because his mom is more of a protector, where his dad is the teacher.
He likes to push Miles to be a good person.
Yeah, exactly.
And you take him out of the picture, and Miles literally just becomes a villain. So
exactly.
Again, really cool storytelling. We can gush about these movies.
My prediction. Well,
talk about Gwen.
I want to do a prediction. One prediction for the next movie.
Okay.
Because Miles is an anomaly, he will not have to follow the spiderweb. Like, he doesn't have to have the same story beats.
He can just do his own thing.
Yeah, he does his own thing. Which, also, that quote is amazing. Everyone tells me how my story is supposed to go. I'm gonna do my own thing. That is one of the coolest fucking lines in that movie. I don't care how casual it's said, it is a goddamn brilliant line. Good on you, Miles.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, Gwen. We're moving on to Gwen. Because Gwen was a supporting role in the first movie.
Correct.
Obviously meant to be kind of the...
she showed up after...
teenage
Peter.
Love interest, I guess, of Miles.
She showed up after Peter B. Parker.
Correct.
And she showed
up in Alchemax.
So, even though Peter B. Parker is the oldest Spider-Man, Gwen is, I would argue, the most skilled Spider-Man. Well, she's not Spider-Man, she's Spider-Woman. But she's like the more. I mean, if you just watch how she lands in New York versus the others, she actually lands instead of smacking into a billboard. Like, she's portrayed as the most skilled of their merry band, but also the most emotionally conflicted, where, like, she's got a lot of, like, I guess, emotional baggage, for lack of a better term, that she carries with her and has to learn to deal with. But she was a supporting character trying to guide Miles in the right direction in the first movie, and then she just became the fucking main character of the second movie.
Right.
Well, like a half main character, because Miles is the main character, a deuteragonist.
Oh yeah.
But because in the second movie, it just starts off with Gwen, and she's talking about Miles, but it's her.
Yeah. Well, like the first 30 minutes of the movie is just her, sort of fallout with her origin story.
Yep. And
there's actually theories too that all of this origin story is before she met Miles. Like some of it. Oh, you're talking about like
the Miguel O'Hara stuff?
Yeah, exactly. So the collider happens, right? And that pulls heroes into other dimensions and villains. So, because how would she get launched to another dimension without the catalyst? And there's also theories where it's like that's why she was prepared when she came into that into Miles's reality and found Miles so quickly.
Why
would she go into a school and act like a student for a random reason?
I respectfully disagree with that theory, because aside from the fact that Miguel O'Hara specifically blames her for Kingpin's collider during the Vulture fight.
That's about the only part that the theory falls apart.
Well, I was going to say the other thing was when she was meeting Miles for the first time, she said that she was from another dimension, and it was like a very big moment for her. But when she saw Miguel show up, she, like, seeing a creature from a different dimension, even Vulture, she saw a creature from another dimension.
Oh, that's true,
like, She's very chill about it, like, oh, he's from a different dimension.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not confused, yeah.
So, yeah, like, I'm not confused. This guy's, he's just here.
Yeah, and that's about where the only part of that kind of breaks down. But at the same time, it's like...
I guess it's a neat theory, but...
Yeah, there are parts of it that just completely fall apart. But yeah, no, Gwen is one of the best support characters turned main character. It would have been really weird if Nicolas Cage suddenly became the main character.
Nicolas Cage?
As Spider Noir.
Yeah, Spider-Man Noir was very badass. All right, we're going to talk about Spider-Man for like freaking 30 minutes. Let's move on to some other superheroes. Because I wanted to talk about
X-Men.
X-Men.
What other superheroes are there? Like, come on.
X-Men.
Yeah. X-Men.
I wanted to talk about X-Men because I have very little exposure to the X-Men universe. They were also Sony property. And
yes.
They made a bunch of movies. Magneto's the coolest guy, and you can't tell me otherwise.
They were the first superhero movies to really popularize the use of multiple heroes.
It kind of makes sense because like X-Men is a group of superheroes instead of just make a Wolverine standalone movie, which I mean I guess they did.
Yeah, they made quite a few of those. Yeah,
but like it's the X-Men.
Yeah, so you've got the X-Men, who that was like the first foray into multiple hero movies.
Who were the original like big names for the X-Men? Because I know you had Magneto as one of the villains.
Magneto, Wolverine, Professor X.
Mystique was a huge player.
Yeah.
I don't know very much about.
Not just because it was Jennifer Lawrence basically in a bodysuit the entire movie. No.
Didn't the OG have a different actress? The OG X-Men movies had a different actress.
Yeah, they did, but nobody remembers them except for Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay.
At least that's the only person I remember. But, anyways,
okay. Well, tell me about the plot of X-Men because I haven't seen that movie in a while. Like
it's been so long since I've seen X-Men.
Maybe we gotta do some research and come back.
Well, so the X-Men started out as like these mutants that slowly learn they're mutants.
Yeah, Charles Xavier.
Right. So originally they're all treated as these villains because they have these extraordinary powers that most humans don't have. And some were using it for good, some were using it for evil. So Professor Xavier decides that, hey, I want to be able to do good because I can basically read people's minds. And influence them. So he creates the School for the Gifted, disguised as the X-Men. Well, okay, he creates the X-Men disguised as a school for training young people, basically, to be superheroes. Right. That's basically the plot of X-Men, but Magneto is like Xavier's friend.
But also, like, so from what I remember, Magneto's whole deal is...
he controls metal. Anything metal.
Well, those are his powers. I'm talking like his ideology.
Oh, yeah.
Is that mutants are better than regular humans.
Right.
Right? Because they all have powers, right? Like, you wouldn't want to be worse.
Just a normal person.
Yeah, like, if you are in a universe where some people are superpowered and some people are normal powered...
Why would you ever want to be a normal person?
Right. So his whole deal is we should have the mutants essentially be, like, take over everything. Be
should be the superior race.
Yeah, the superior. And in terms of, like, an evolutionary standpoint, like, if you're looking at a pure survival of the fittest type deal, then
like, it makes sense, but...
It makes sense why you would want mutants to be in charge of everything. That being said, killing a bunch of people is not
the way to do
the way to go about it. Like, if Magneto became I don't know, if he ran for president, well, he would lose because he's a murderous bastard. But, like, you know, theoretically, if Magneto wanted to be in charge of everything because he's a mutant, he could run for president. But instead, he tries to assassinate the president. And like, he kills a bunch of political figures. I don't know, he's very, like, anti-establishment, like...
Correct, which is why he eventually despises Xavier, because he's like, you're trying to make a group of superheroes. That doesn't jive with my ideology.
He's trying to make a group of superheroes that works for the good of humanity.
Yeah.
Versus Magneto, who's
the
like,
good
screw
of the
humanity.
Mutants.
Yeah, screw humanity. Like, we should be looking after our own interests. Both of them are sympathetic characters because you get both their ideologies. Like, the humans are just routinely horrible to the X-Men.
Correct.
Like, regular
humanity. They do not care. They most of the time just want to exterminate the mutants.
Yeah, and while Charles Xavier takes, like, an Optimus Prime, like, outlook where, like, you know...
We must protect humanity.
Yeah, humans might be assholes, but there are assholes. Magneto is just like, nah, screw these guys. Let's look after our own, and the humans can go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
Which leads to a lot of conflict, and, you know, Wolverine screams a lot during that series.
Well, Wolverine started out not as the Wolverine that we know, because he didn't have the adamantium in him. He was experimented on and eventually injected with adamantium, which enhanced him.
Originally, he just had the claws and
he had bones for claws,
and he could heal real fast.
Yeah, he had naturally regenerative powers, and then he just could stab people with his bones.
Then they coated his skeleton and, by extension, his bone claws in the hardest metal. Yeah, the most durable metal ever. And now he... unfortunately, that made him super weak to Magneto, because a dude who controls metal, he's just like, woo, look at this puppet that I can move around.
Exactly.
But aside from specifically Magneto, Wolverine became one of the most badass X-Men characters. And he's like the... Like, if you need someone beat up... Wolverine
you call him. Yeah.
Wolverine can beat up anybody.
And here's the hilarious part, because they made one fatal mistake of introducing the Merc with a mouth as a guy with no mouth.
So when they introduced him, God, poor Ryan Reynolds has been in so much
Reynolds,
Green Lantern, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds had the worst time trying to become a good actor for a while.
So I remember this. This was in X-Men Origins, right?
Yes.
Where Wade Wilson, before he became Deadpool, was just a dude. Wade Wilson was just a dude who really liked his katanas and could swing them around at, like, Mach 5 to where he could deflect bullets with swords.
Yeah.
And that was it. He was just a soldier, and he talked way too much. He was like, again, the quippy MCU
Merc with a mouth,
character.
yeah.
Yeah, Merc with a mouth. He was a mercenary, and he talked too much. Stryker, who was the evil dude in that movie, experimented on Wade Wilson, and instead of having him use swords, he grafted the swords into his arms,
yeah.
Like Baraka from Mortal Kombat. And he also gave him laser vision, and he also gave him teleportation and the healing factor. Now, these are all abilities, except for maybe the laser eyes. These are all abilities that OG Deadpool had, right? OG Deadpool could teleport, because he had an item that let him do that. OG Deadpool had swords, OG Deadpool could heal real fast.
Yep.
But they just did him so dirty in that movie.
Well, he's supposed to be this super quippy superhero.
Right.
Like,
they
well,
sewed
not
his
superhero,
mouth
but...
shut.
Yeah, they sewed his mouth shut. Like,
to get him to stop talking. And I think everybody agrees that was a mistake. In the newer Deadpool movies, Deadpool
they did him much better. They even in the second Deadpool movie did a joke where he goes back in time and kills original Deadpool. And so also funny. Ryan Reynolds as he's reading the Green Lantern script.
Yeah. God, poor Ryan Reynolds has been through some shit.
But it's good that Ryan Reynolds is able to poke fun at his own career. It's great. Good for Ryan Reynolds. He's a great guy.
Absolutely. I can't wait for Deadpool and Wolverine to come out.
Wolverine movie, yeah.
That's gonna be.
It's supposedly Deadpool goes to an alternate universe where he recruits Wolverine, and they go into the MCU.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's their intro into the MCU, and the actual X-Men coming into the MCU.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. I can't wait to see Magneto versus Iron Man.
Well,
Iron Man's
we
dead,
may have to wait for that.
But, God, shortest fight ever.
Can we also... I want to quickly touch on the downfall of the MCU right now. Ironheart, who is supposed to be the replacement for Iron Man.
Is it good?
No.
Oh, that's a shame.
So they introduced Ironheart.
Disney Plus really did a number on the MCU.
A lot of their series, their TV show series, are good. You've got WandaVision, which was really good. Loki, which is really good. Hawkeye, which was okay. But then you have terrible ones that just messed up so many things. Like Wakanda Forever, the newest Black Panther movie. Great movie most of the time, up until the second half.
I haven't seen. I've stopped. Superhero movies became so common that I stopped watching them because I can't keep up with any of them.
Yeah. Well,
that's probably part of the problem. So the last superhero movie I watched was Endgame. And I tried to keep up with some of the series. Like, I watched, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I watched, like, the first half of Loki. But, like, there's so much MCU stuff to keep up with nowadays that I'd rather just read about it.
It's content overwhelm, basically. It's just that there's so much now that you have to keep up on, or else you're
Marvels
behind.
Came out, Shang-Chi, The Eternals.
So, Shang-Chi was good. The Eternals was terrible. Quantumania was terrible.
Like, there's just a bunch of stuff going on that I can't keep up with.
Yeah. I mean, I could go on and on about the newest MCU movies. But anyway, so Ironheart, who is supposed to be the replacement for Iron Man, she's introduced as this, like, snarky, annoying character that bullies people.
Wasn't that what Tony Stark was?
That was what Tony Stark was. However, his initial catalyst was, hey, you need to learn humility by being basically captured and trying to save, what was his name? Jensen.
The scientist that he was.
Yeah, Jensen.
There you go. The scientist.
Yeah, the scientist. He saves Jensen and then is like, oh crap, my weapons are being used for evil. I need to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. Well, whereas Ironheart is just like, yeah, no, I have this super suit that lets me fly and I'm going to beat up people.
That doesn't sound like a superhero. That sounds like a supervillain.
Yeah, that's basically what she is.
That's the one thing that I'm always afraid of whenever I'm writing stuff. I write stuff, by the way, if you didn't know. No, you can't see any of it.
He writes fanfics.
If I was if I was to write a superhero movie, or really just any, like, story at all, My biggest fear would be writing a villain character that I treat like that the story treats like a hero.
Yeah.
That would be a big issue because me, the writer, I'm blind to my own like errors, right? So I wouldn't be able to tell if I'm writing a character that is like a villainous character. And I love writing bad guys. Like if I write an evil character, and they're they're a good type of evil, like it makes sense what they're doing, then yeah, absolutely make them a supervillain. But if the story treats them like they're a hero, like if they get the big fanfare whenever they beat up somebody, or people just love them even though despite all the horrible things they've done, then that's bad writing. And again, I haven't seen Ironheart, so I can't really judge, but that it sounds like they wrote an awesome villain that they're treating like a hero, which is not good.
Well, so with the hero versus villain thing, you want your hero and villain to be mirror images of each other. For part of it, mostly with the ethics. Not always.
Jack Horner was a great villain, and he wasn't mirror image of Puss in Boots at all.
No, of course not. Well, Jack Horner was a great villain because he had no empathy. He did not care about anyone but himself. That's what made him a good villain. But like Death was a good villain because he was the opposite of Puss in Boots, where Puss in Boots was this character that
happy-go-lucky, snarky, adventure-y type that needed to learn humility.
Yeah,
and then Tony Stark.
Death was just like, yeah, I'm your humility.
Yeah, like, by the way, you can't escape me, and you've also been horrible, so I'm gonna take your last life.
Yeah.
And then he had to wise up real quick.
Yeah, exactly. But
so,
in the case of Spider-Man, most of his villains are, I have this power, but I'm going to use it for selfish reasons, whereas Spider-Man's like, I have this power, I'm going to try and
use it for
save people. Yeah.
Alright, so where does Ironheart fail in this? Again, I haven't seen it, so I'm just taking it by your word, but where does Ironheart fail on that spectrum?
The main issue with Ironheart is that her introduction is about all of 5 minutes, and her entire introduction is she basically I'm starting to flounder here. So she's introduced extorting her fellow students by basically asking money for a project that she helped them on, but is holding it as ransom until they pay her.
That doesn't seem very heroic.
No.
Okay.
And then she runs away from the Wakandan people that were trying to find her and get her help on stuff. And then she runs from the police and I think blows up a police vehicle. She's
not very heroic at all.
No. But we're supposed to treat her like a hero because she's on the side of the heroes.
She's on the side of the box art.
Pretty much. Oh my god.
Hopefully and I think a whole lot of that is just Disney Plus's influence because they want
Disney's just trying to churn out way too much content way too quickly and expect us to care about characters that they have no backstory for.
So hopefully they wise up in the near future and go back to making awesome movies. But
pre-Endgame, make those kind of movies.
Until then, I'm probably not gonna watch a bunch of again, there's just so much I can't keep up.
There is. I think that's why the Miles Morales movies have done so well, is because they're contained, but they have really rich story and background for each one of the characters that they introduce. I think that's the best way to do it.
And they don't come out once every 2 months.
Exactly. Which I'm still really sad that this one got delayed Beyond the Spider-Verse for so long, because it's still indefinitely postponed. We don't know when it's coming out. So
hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon.
Super pumped for it.
Yeah. Cool.
Anything else we want to talk about superhero related before we call this one?
I'm tired.
Yeah, you sound tired. Unfortunately, we still got more shit to record. So
that's okay.
We get your shit together.
Fine. Wow. All right.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what you signed up for.
Yeah.
You don't know the first thing about being a content creator.
You're always on the camera.
You're the original anomaly. All right. I'm gonna stop screaming. We'll talk to you guys later.
Okay. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.